Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something huge, a piece of legislation that is completely rewriting the rules of work in India, the Social Security Code of 2020. So imagine this. You're trying to figure out your social security rights. But to do that, you've got to sort through 9 different, super complicated and sometimes contradictory laws. For decades, that was the reality in India. It was just this maze of rules for things like your pension, your insurance, your maternity benefits. You get the idea. But then, in 2020, India decided to do a massive cleanup. They took this whole tangled mess of old laws and replaced it all with one single, unified framework. The goal? Pretty simple, really. To go from chaos to clarity. From 9 confusing acts to one single code. So here's the bottom line, the most important thing to get right away. This code's #1 mission is consolidation. It's about creating one single rulebook for Social Security, which should make life simpler for employers and make benefits way more accessible for workers. And just look at the scale of this. This isn't some minor tweak. The new code gets rid of a whole bunch of laws, and some of them, like the Employees Compensation Act, go all the way back to 1923. I mean, we're talking about legislation that was nearly a century old. This wasn't just a fresh coat of paint. It was a total demolition and rebuild of the system. Okay, so making things simpler is great. But what's really, really interesting about this new code isn't just what it combines, it's who it now brings into the system. This is where you see the Social Security safety net get a whole lot wider. For the very first time in Indian law, and this is a big deal, we have an official definition for gig workers. We're talking about freelance creators, independent consultants, anyone who works outside of that traditional employee-employee relationship. The law finally recognizes this modern way of earning a living. And it gets even more specific, calling out platform workers. Now, these are the people using an app or a website to find work, like your ride-sharing driver or your food delivery person. This is the law directly acknowledging the world we live in, the world of the app-based economy. And this one is absolutely critical. It sharpens the definition of an unorganized worker. This category is just massive in India. It covers people working from home, folks who are self-employed, and workers in really small businesses, places with fewer than 10 employees. The code is trying to bring this huge, often unprotected group into the system. So what's the big takeaway here? It means that millions and millions of workers who for years just fell through the cracks, gig workers, platform workers, and even employees on fixed-term contracts, they now have a legal path to Social Security benefits. For many, this is the first time ever. So, we know who's covered. Now let's talk about what they're actually covered for. What can a worker actually get under this new code? A few key numbers really tell the story. First step, 26 weeks. For eligible women, that's the maximum amount of paid maternity leave. This is such a vital benefit for working mothers, and it's a really important protection that's been carried over into the new code. Next, 5 years. That's kind of the magic number for a long-term benefit called gratuity. You can think of it as a lump sum payment, like a thank you for your service bonus that an employee can get after 5 continuous years with the same company. And this range, 1 to 2%, this is a special tax. It's called a cess that's charged on construction projects. And every single rupee from this fund is set aside specifically to provide Social Security and other benefits for building and construction workers. And when you lay it all out like this, you really start to see the logic of the system. Each benefit, whether it's a long-term payment like gratuity, support during maternity, or compensation if there's a workplace accident, has its own clear rules for who gets it and when. The goal is to have an organized system for every possible scenario. Okay, so we've covered who gets benefits and what those benefits are, but how does this all actually work? I mean, who pays for it and who's in charge? Let's take a look at the machinery behind the code. Well, the funding is basically a team effort. The money comes from a few different streams. You have the traditional contributions from employers and employees. You have those specific cess funds, like for construction. But, and this is the groundbreaking part, For the first time, the aggregators, the companies behind the apps, are now required to contribute to Social Security for their gig and platform workers. That is a huge change. And managing all this cash is a network of specialized bodies. So you've got the central board that handles the main pension fund, the EPF. You have the ESIC that deals with insurance, and then you have these newly empowered national and state social security boards, whose entire job is to create schemes just for unorganized gig and platform workers. Each group has its own clear focus.
Okay, let's bring this all home. What are the most practical, immediate things you need to know about this code, whether you're running a business or you're an employee?
For employers, the message is pretty straightforward. Get organized and get digital. There are 3 key duties. First, you have to register your business, and the code wants you to do it online. Second, you have to get insurance to cover your gratuity payouts so that money is always available. And third, you have to keep detailed records. Digital is best as part of this whole new system.
And for employees, well, there is one key that unlocks all of these benefits, and it all comes down to identity. The law is super specific here. To get anything from your Provident Fund to a pension, you or your family will need to verify who you are using your Aadhaar number. This creates a portable, verifiable Social Security ID for every single worker. So there's no question, this code is a massive step forward. It's simplifying decades of laws and finally catching up to the 21st century economy. But as work continues to evolve, probably faster than ever, it does leave us with one final, really important question. How will this new framework adapt to protect the next generation of workers? Thanks for watching The Explainer.